Erroneous liaison. Liaison?
It's ER. I don't know if that works. Erroneous is ER.
Erroneous. It's like a sound thing, not a spelling thing, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not gonna. You know what? I'm not gonna split hairs.
Yeah,
Speaking of
crazy
hair,
kids, you know, it's a sound work. It's see
yeah.
anything, it's fine.
Speaking of splitting hairs, I didn't shampoo, so I just still have 3 day old product in my hair. It doesn't feel great. I just forgot. I always
Looks
remember to
great.
shampoo, and today you forget. You forget to shampoo. Hey, thanks.
I assumed you were pluming to attract mates, and that's probably the green.
Yeah, I'm like a peacock.
Good. Way to
Um,
go. Ah,
or one of the baboons with the red butts. You smack them.
is that the same thing? Are they just?
Yeah, they do a little dance, sing a little
I thought they
song,
were red
make
from
a
all the
little love.
smacking, and it's just sort of incidental.
No, no, no. They're born red, man.
Huh. The
I
redder
don't
the
know.
better.
Uh, I was listening to a couple comedians talk about Star Wars,
Yeah? Was it? Oh,
and
I thought you
one of
were
them,
listening to your old Ironlights. No, all right.
no,
Star Wars was bad.
bad, bad.
We're good.
One of them goes, so what do you think Chewbacca would look like if you shaved off all of his hair? And the other guy goes, oh, it's just a guy. It's just a man, like a regular dude. If you shaved all of Chewbacca's hair off,
James ate Shepik. He just
yeah.
went off the
If you
rails.
you shaved all of a baboon's hair off, it would just be like a little man with a red butt, red skin. We've derailed. Ironlight.
We were never railed in the first place.
I felt railed.
I'd like to
I
be railed.
love I
Let's
love
get
getting railed.
let's get railed and talk about some D&D.
Brain. Oh, Jordan. Shit. I was going to tell you this before the show started. You can edit it out. Actually, I think it's kind of endearing if you leave it in. The last Iron Light show, you were like, "Oh, Charlie, you were coming up with interview questions while I was speaking." I was like, "Yeah," because always when you're talking, I think of more questions. But while we're doing our little recaps, I think I think that leaves room for the other to make like witty, like incidental questions
Sideline,
and sort
trippers,
of butt in
quick
with
shots.
yeah, jibber jabber. But we save the hard hitters for the post interview. So feel free while I'm speaking, because I'm doing it. Rest assured, I'm doing it while you're giving your recap.
Well,
To come up with to if you come up with some questions to ask them in the post interview while I'm speaking. So he's ready. He's ready. Let me set a timer here. Oh, and I meant to talk about an agenda thing. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it at the end. It's fine.
good enough.
This is folks, this is we're on our holiday breaks. So
This is a bonus. This
we're
is our Christmas
even
episode.
we should have a Patreon and
This
this
is a
should go
bonus.
on it. And you guys should have to pay for this. Just kidding.
I
We're
got
just grateful. We're just grateful that you're watching in the first place.
uh-huh.
You owe us nothing. Uh wow, festive, Jordan.
That was just
Um
getting there half eaten.
the brains of bots. Last time we left off, Keith was receding back into his mind an incantation, an ancient 10th level spell ignited onto his skin, trapped inside of his head, and there is his patron, the Traveler. He offers him an out. The Traveler, in his sort of buttery, Matt Mercerian, sort of British English,
Live.
nebulous accent,
Yeah.
floaty, asks Keith to do him a favor. He says, "I'll let you out. I'll give you back your control. I'll give you some options. At least something that'll hopefully help you out if you do me a favor." Keith was like, "All right, I'll entertain it." The Traveler says, "Bring me Daisy Rivali." Daisy Rivali is an unfortunate and tragic little girl whose father was swept up in the very first in the very first big police scandal story in the very first city of Tyr where our heroes found each other. He was a corrupt police constable, and our now dead PC Thurai ran him through with a rapier. He confessed with his dying breath that he was being coerced, that his family's lives were being threatened, and that he was complying. And Daisy doesn't know that they killed his dad. So it's messy. Tie in the fact that there's something going on with this little girl, right? She's gaining these magical powers. She was this as far as they knew, she was this savant artist. She was a painter. She was this 9-year-old who had her own art style. She could paint these really stirring portraits. She's talented, but in more ways than one. And they learned earlier in a dream that Keith had that she's a rune child. So it's another Mercurian thing. Rune child meaning that they have innate magical abilities that are. I'm gonna hold. I would spoil it. I would spoil how one becomes a rune child and what the consequences are. All the party knows, all that you know, brains and bots, is that rune children level very, very quickly.
Oh, out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. I'm talking level 1 to level 19 in a period of hours, days, weeks. Okay.
Can't be good. The stretch marks.
So Keith says, "You know what? We're in such a shit position. Let's do it. Let's send it. I'll bring you a rune child. I won't ask questions." The traveler, Cheshire cat grin spreading under the dark green hood, says, "Sounds like a deal," and reveals Keith's mount's true name. Now, Keith's mount is called Cash, and the traveler revealed.
Thank God it's not Cash.
And the traveler revealed that Cash was a traveler's mount, this loyal steed, all these years that he gifted to Keith in the wake of his village being burned to the ground. And the traveler gives Keith Cash's true name. It's Cassius. I could have been more creative, but Cassius is a hero's name, right?
Is Cassius is in the Julius Caesar?
Yeah.
Roman. Okay. Yeah.
It's don't read into it too much because there's not that
I wasn't
much there.
about to.
I like the name.
It's a good name. It's really good.
It is a good name.
Gaius Cassius.
It felt really good because Keith came up with a name for his mount. He called it Cash, just for fun.
Got a mount named Cash.
And the true name was Cassius. So Keith invokes his mount's name. Already a Pegasus, this thing grows a jade horn. It becomes a unicorn, a flying unicorn. My man is a bard brony at this point.
Fuck yeah.
And unicorns have all these crazy spells, abilities. The tides are potentially turning. And even though Keith is losing control, he's polymorphing, he's zooming in to help rescue Kalesh, the Iron-Fisted King, from plummeting into the ether, Cassius is able to get off the single most incidental use of dispel evil and good I've ever seen. Unicorns can cast dispel evil and good one time a day, and one of the effects of dispel evil and good, and somebody fact check me on this, is to get rid of a charmed or frightened condition, just instantly, permanently. Not necessarily permanently, but a very powerful charm condition.
Mm-hmm.
And Keith is back. I didn't even think of that use for the unicorn. I was just throwing it to Keith so that maybe he would put something together, right?
Those spells get a lot of heat, but they can have really cool applications.
They can get a lot of heat.
Shout out to Liam O'Brien at the end of Crit Roll Campaign 2. I won't spoil any specifics, but he uses like the dispel and the prevent spells to really cool effect.
Yeah. He's like almost an abjuration guy. He's such a good character. Caleb Widogast. I guess Bren. Critical Role aside.
Good luck with that.
The tides start to turn. The party is getting closer. They're fighting through an army of orcs. They're getting closer and closer to reuniting. But Kalesh, the Iron-Fisted King, is slowly but surely climbing using the fly spell because he's a warlock, right? He's flying closer and closer to the final accumulation camber. That is one of the sacrificial altars where 3 bodies can be sacrificed to manifest something. He's slowly but steadily making his way over there with the intention of sacrificing himself to resurrect his dead baby mama. Meanwhile, Gleason is trying so hard to destroy the things that he built. He built those accumulation cameras. So he's using this armor that is materialized from his steel defender ally that has sort of Iron Man-esque like disincorporated and then adhered itself onto his body as armor, as a tool set, and slowly destabilizing this sort of device so that Kalesh can't even get the chance to sacrifice himself. And then Kalesh ups the ante one more time. 3 people have disappeared into the maze. One of them is Fargrim Gullstaff, a cleric of nature, a cleric of the Wild Mother, who was an original member of the Order of the White Lotus. If you remember, if I've talked about it that much, the organization that ended the Deep War of Josadius hundreds of years ago. Soldiers and representatives from both sides of the conflict joining together and ending the war. He's not an original member, but a new member who is affected deeply by whatever subterfuge and dastardly plan that Neome, the BBEG, was perpetuating across the nation. Disappeared into the maze. His daughter, Frigr, named after it's a sort of a mispronunciation of the Odin's wife in the Thor myths, the Norse myths. His daughter Frigr, fresh out of all the confusion and the conflict, is horribly guilty that her father went into the maze to rescue her friends and he didn't come back out. So she flies the coop, she jumps into the maze after her father, fiercely loyal. And now they've lost 2 people into the maze. So they assign another one of the Warforged, Karthikeya's, our Warforged wizards, kin, other members of the castle unit, the castle team, the other Warforged that were created as a part of Project Warforged to defend the interests of Josadius, called Ares. He was the warlock. He was sent into the maze to venture in and retrieve the missing persons, but he disappeared as well. Kalesh, final Hail Mary. He's thinking he's about to lose his chance at bringing back his dead baby mama, quotations. And they materialize, chained with magical bindings, exhausted, 5 points of exhaustion, unable to move, unable to think. And importantly, complicating Glayson's choice to dismantle this device that he built. If he dismantles this device, the person that's lashed to the apparatus is going to plummet along with the debris into the storm below.
Sure, stick it to him.
Stick it to him. What you got to be mean to your party. Getting into the specifics of kind of DM behind the screen stuff here. I have always had, and I've done some talking about this, I've always had a tough relationship, a complicated one, with Deus Ex Machinas, right? In a world with literal gods, the time that they would intervene to help their chosen heroes would be in the darkest times, right? Deus Ex Machinas
Isn't it always?
Don't make sense except in D&D. But that doesn't mean that they're fun, right? Your players don't want to be given the answer. They want to be given the tools to figure out the answer so that they can attribute their victories to themselves and not to some gods, right? And so I had a couple of conversations with some of my party afterwards that maybe I should let their gods intervene and help them out, but in the small moments. Make the small moments important. Make the ways that the gods help my players' characters out nebulous and frustratingly cosmic, so that when the moment is right and you really just got to rely on your wits and your ingenuity, my players can really just pull out the ace in the hole, the hat trick, and the gods really can have helped out at the right moment.
That makes sense, right? Because it sounds like some of your problem or your anticipated criticisms of Deus Ex Machina is there's no precedent for it. Like,
Right.
the god's never been here before. So now, when, as a plot device, we'd really like the party to not die, now the god shows up and does some badass, sweepingly awesome thing. But
It's
I think
all, yeah. It's all about the balance. It's all about the balance of giving your players choice, letting them suffer the consequences of their failings. It's a beautiful balance, and I appreciate it so much now. That being said, there was the caveat, right? I gave Keith the choice. He could have beleaguered the point and buried the lead and just asked the traveler all these questions. Why do you want me to bring this little girl whose tragic past is unfortunately and unknown to her tied in with us, right? But he chose to go through with it. He was like, you know what? I'll make a bargain with this dubious archfey.
And
if you know what I'm saying,
pick up another arc of the adventure that Charlie's gonna have to work us through.
Exactly. It's going to be really exciting. In the meantime, in next session, Gleason has some big choices to make. If he chooses to destroy the device that would prevent Niome from being manifested into a physical body, he might have to sacrifice one of the people that have disappeared in the maze, one of their allies.
Got a funky little problem on your hands.
Who are very valuable, and who this little Easter egg, because you guys, the Brains of Bots, have yet to notice or ask about this, saw some stuff in the maze. And you guys haven't asked about it. They haven't even had the energy to consider whether what they saw was real. But as time passes and things are put together, they're going to start putting the pieces together, and they're going to search you out. So I'm excited for you guys to figure that out. Next session, the final climactic moment where the fate of Kalash the Iron Fisted King is decided, as well as the Brains of Bots. And that's me.
Fuck, Chuck. That's sweet. Chuck. That's sweet. I'm in love with the Deus Ex Machina, but with massive costs, right? That's the killer. What comes out at the end to save you is not some giant golden guardian. It is a deal with the devil. Because why would the most evil characters in the world not also come out when you were at your most critical moment, right? That's when you're most likely to give in and give over to them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way. I think that's a good way for your god to like sweep in at the worst moment and, you know, give you a choice.
Mm-hmm.
This with some risk, or that with, I mean, the devil you know or the devil you don't.
100%.
The traveler, right? Dubious. I'm excited.
I pulled that same trick in this Pragasfar session. Literally, the exact same Deus Ex Machina, but with a massive catch.
I don't know. Okay. Well, why don't you tell us about it, I guess, Jordan?
It's just...
I didn't know.
You turned it down.
Oh.
It's going to be a lot to talk about. No, pitter patter. Yeah. It's all right. And I should set a timer, or I'll just kind of run off the cuff. We're fine here. Life is groovy. Today is December 26th, by the way. I had to say that to make sure that I upload this tonight. If you look down in the section below, say uploaded December 26th. Thank me for that one.
You should upload the other one first.
Oh, they're both gonna. Episode 8 is also gonna say that. It's a double upload. Holiday special. Look at that.
We gotta open
bonus content. We'll have to say gotta open a Patreon. Yeah, we're not there yet. Pragasfar. Session 16, Ataraxia, was named halfway through the session. The story of this individual game goes far beyond the game itself, because this is the one I had 2 weeks to prep for. I beat myself up for. I called the last session a catastrophe in a lot of ways. But whatever. Here's the story as it unfolds. The players start out by seeing a cutscene of Arkansas. Arkansas every D&D guy has their main wizard character, right? That they use as their avatar, they use as their nicknames. I mean, Gary Gygax had his. Every D&D leader since has had theirs that have entered the canon. Mine's Arkancelis, and he's watching through a series of TV-like portals around him the big fight that's unfolding 150 some miles away from his city. He's watching it, and he's commanding bit by bit the disparate forces of the army. He's got people fighting over the plains there. He's got some magic rune carved way in the back of his laboratory that's like sitting there about to explode, ready to summon something. And he's got these dragon riders over the top of Belamon, the city of Nyxfair. The party, remember, in this fight is fighting on the side of Nyxfair versus Sarastrath. It's Nyxfair's airships and technology versus Sarastrath's dragons and elementals and rocks and stuff. So, Arkancelis is trying to win this war for Sarastrath with as little blood as possible. His plan is multifaceted. First of all, he tries to get the forces, the leaders of the forces of Sarastrath, that's Mad Ivan, played by Jim Shepik, who is guest starring, and Revelia, this archdruidess who's transformed herself into a rock. He's trying to get them to corner Foreboding International, like taking away a big part of his war effort, specifically to put the party in a losing situation. As he does that, he has his strike force above Belamon, led by Arlo Fix's son, Reno Spade. They drop down out of the sky, they fire. Arkancelis has equipped them with disintegrate wands, just enough to let down the force field around the city, infiltrate, and take over aerial dominance. Because the city, having this force field around it, was not preparing its aerial defenses, so they were vulnerable. And Arkancelis, in a really cool roguelike preemptive strike, takes the city of Belamon. But he knows that Nyxfair's plan, as the party found out last session, is to themselves send a secret fleet of airships over the city of Vizier, and to hold hellfire over them, to hold massive bombs over the city's population, to compel Sarastrath's surrender. Neither party wants to win the fight in the air. Neither was convinced that they could. So, Arkancelis is ready to defend the city of Vizier. He has a massive summoning rune that is going to call forth some big baddie to shoot down all of the airships that are going there. But he doesn't know which city it is the airships are going to threaten. And so, having given up a ton of resources, Sarastrath is losing the original fight that the party's seeing right now because so many resources were allocated to cornering the party members. But now that he has them cornered, Arkancelis messages them. And he says, first to Cal and then to Patch. He says, tell me which city it is that Parlis is attacking. Tell me where he's sending his strike force, and I'm calling off Revelia and Mad Ivan right now. They'll save you. They'll save your friends. This can all end bloodlessly. I can take Belamon. Belamon is falling. We've got this war. But I need to stop those airships. And Cal says, that's not enough for me. I'm not going to accept this bargain. Even being cornered by like a 16th level wizard with 1 to 7 hit points, Cal wouldn't give in. So Arkancelis is pissed, scratches it, tries Cal again. Leaves Cal, tries Claymore Patch. Messages him and says, tell me which city it is Parlis is attacking. Patch, his life threatened, watching his buddy get annihilated. Patch says no, won't give it up. And so Mad Ivan, lightning lures Cal, pulls him, sends him off the edge of the ship, casts some other crazy damaging spell, I don't even remember, it must have been a cantrip of some sort, to take out Patch. It was effortless, he was low, walks over to him, picks him up, throws him off the edge of the airship. Cal and Clay, Charlie and Houston's characters, plummeting to their deaths. Baragon, the last party member alive, facing it off against Revelia, gets cut down at the start of combat. He's falling. 3 party members descending through open air, making death saving throws. They make them. They get all of them successes and failures. They're close. Cal transforms into the Lonely. He always, whenever he goes unconscious, starts this transformation. He has control over it this time, but maybe in a last-ditch effort to find some way to stay in the air, he accepts the transformation. He stabs Claymore Patch on a random d6 roll, reels him in, the two of them are falling together. Baragon rolls a natural 20 on a death saving throw, gets 1 hit point back, does some crazy monk shit in the air, finds his staff, locks it into place, which is its special magical ability, and survives the fall. But Cal and Clay fall to the ground, get their last words in, and die. And we have 2 player deaths at the same time. We take a break, and when we come back, Clay and Cal wake up on Mount Lear, which is the center of the world of Pragasvar. There's a part of the map which has always been white and uncharted. They wake up there, and they learn that these divine entities that preside over the world are now to bid for their souls. Sometimes they bid, sometimes they fight, sometimes they try and tempt the people in the middle. But they talk for a minute, they breathe in the serene air, and then Cal steps up and says, and hears from the guardian who stands there, that it's time for him to say his true name, and that only when he does so will the forces that preside over the world be called to judge him, be called to offer him refuge. And so you step up to the Eye of the World, which is the Eye of Akaria, a stone I stole from Aiden from Targonra. Eye of Akaria became Eye of the World, which is itself a Robert Jordan and Murrah reference. Murrah has been completely absent from the world of Pragasvar, as best I could do it, up until the Eye of the World. And he says Charlie. Cal says the name of his PC, Charlie. And this marks the end game of Pragasvar. This is when I've been teasing at the boundaries between player and character for a long time. There on Mount Lear, with the word whispered to you, Charlie, it was finally obliterated. And Charlie is in Cal's body, deciding Cal's fate. He is offered with the giant that roams the astral sea to go and stray off into the astral sea forever, or he is offered one last quest from a until now silent god. This Seraph, the Seraph of Love who saved his life, says, listen, I can still use you. I can place you back in this world. You'll take some new form. We're going to work it out together. There's still a chance to save this place. And Charlie, deciding for Cal, puts Cal back in the mortal world, accepts this secondhand, temporary question mark rebirth, even though it just means more suffering, likely. Then it's Patch's turn to step up. Patch steps on the stone, prepares to say Houston, as the example has been made by Charlie, and then he hears, stop! This massive echoing voice comes down from the winds, and the Guardian, who is standing there giving him the directions, starts to get force choked from out of nowhere. And this is all stuff, by the way, Jim Shepik and I came up prepping for the session, like 20 minutes before it. It was awesome. Starts to get force choked and falls down. And the Somnium Tenebris, the spaceship that's been built by Dr. Bleakwood, residing on the moon of Vitorlin with his extra spatial forces, arrives, parting through the clouds, and tells Patch, stop, leave this, come with me. We're done here, baby. It's time to, Pragasvar's reality is caving in, come with me. Let's do this. Let's make this big final blow happen. You're on my side, all right? And Patch has a very surreal conversation with Dr. Bleakwood, in which not only is Patch more Houston than he's ever been, but Bleakwood is more me than any NPC maybe has ever been. The result of the conversation, Patch turns down his offer, turns away from the army of Mind Flayers, levels up twice, and casts all of his magic that he can. Final Fantasy, the ability granted to him by his whip, is now in his head, as his new undying patron is his undying love, Azalea Hyde, who keeps coming back and coming back from the grave. He draws upon her power and slaps, bitch slaps Bleakwood off the mountain, takes into the air, ascends to the air. New wings set the tyrant free. And he escapes. That was the session.
If you are alone, it's because you chose to be apart.
The words that kept echoing in Cal's head over and over and over again, which were later said to Charlie by his Seraph as he's dying. If you're alone, Cal, who has been plagued by the lonely for this long, right? That's been his big arc through the campaign. Has been he can't be himself because if he gets hurt, if he falls asleep at the wrong time, he becomes the lonely and kills his friends. And they're telling him, if you're alone, it's because you chose it. It's you that wants to be apart. It's you that wants to be apart if you're alone. Which is, of course, the Seraph speaking to Charlie, right? It's telling Cal, someone that is you has chosen that you're going to be this way. It's nobody's fault. Don't blame anyone else. So, yeah, DMing for this session was a fucking wreck. I put the players in a lose-lose situation last session, and starting this one, going into this session, I had to decide, am I going to Deus Ex Machina? Am I going to find some way to keep the players alive, or am I going to turn their deaths into something? I had planned that Arkancelis would make this offer. I thought one of the party members would take it. They would stay alive and figure it out. But I accepted the contingency that they wouldn't. And in that case, I wanted all 3 party members to die. I wanted them to all die together. They'd go to this Mount Lear judgment thing. They would all get offers to either step into like a different phase in the game and watch the end game play out, or to return to their bodily characters and try for one last ride.
It's never how it goes, because Baragon rolls like a hero. He only rolls like a hero, dude.
It was pretty pro. So this is Ironlight. This is where we talk about behind the screen stuff. Even if Baragon had died, he was going to go to Mount Lear. He was going to get called to hell by a devil. A devil is going to show up and try and take him there. It was Jivo, who has appeared in the campaign in ways you guys hadn't realized. That was going to be a little reveal. But and then Baragon's father was going to come up from out of nowhere, Darthus, and fight this demon of hell and try to win his soul. But it wouldn't have mattered, because Baragon was going to get resurrected by Parlis, no matter what, after the fight. Or Parlis, or whoever survived. Baragon was going to have his judgment interrupted by getting pulled back to reality. So,
oh my god.
Baragon's with Arkancelis now. Those two are going to have like a solo adventure into Trollwire. It looks like that'll be a really fun one-shot to run. Cal is being reborn into Trollwire, which is going to be a freaking weird one-shot. That's got to happen in the next couple days. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And then Claymore Patch is inventoryless, but double leveled up, has a new patron with a bunch of new abilities that he doesn't understand yet. And he's going to have a one-shot when he tries to find his friends, tries to get his stuff back, tries to get to Trollwire.
Now more than ever, Patch, like his ability of Final Fantasy, he makes his own story. He blazes his own path. He literally, what he imagined in his mind materializes.
Silent image becomes material form. Yeah, no, it's sweet. I always wanted him to lean on that ability more, and now I've taken away everything else from him. Like, he must. He has 2 spell slots in Final Fantasy. That's it. So, good enough.
Good enough. So wait.
Crazy session.
Are you gonna tell them about Baragon just waiting to be rescued and the whole? You didn't even mention Tiamat, dude.
Oh fuck. So
oh no, you did a little bit.
No, you're right. That was the whole point of Arkancelis' plot, very briefly. He has this summoning circle, this huge one ready. It's what Savro Maravilla from the one-shot has been doing for so long. We heard that Savro went missing. We heard that he was off the grid. I mentioned it like 6 or 7 times throughout the campaign. Nobody ever knew what he was doing. Well, this is it. It's creating the summoning circle for Tiamat, the Dragon Queen. Deep from D&D lore, from the 9 Hells of Avernus. And since neither of the party members told Arkancelis which city was being attacked, he made a guess. I made Houston roll a d4. And on a 1, Arkancelis guessed right. And on anything else, on 2, 3, or 4, he guessed any of the other major cities of Sarasdrath. Houston rolled a 1. Arkancelis guessed correctly, goes to the city of Vizier, and summons Tiamat, the Dragon Queen, who, the 5-headed dragon, Google it, there's a huge Wikipedia page, shows up and obliterates all the airships, and is now running rampant on the world. So not only...
Shout out Sasa's production of She Kills Monsters.
Put her fresh in my mind, how could I not? So the party not only has to face each other, do whatever they have to do to get the 3rd relic, the 3rd duality weapon, they also have to fix the war that still seems to be happening. Baragon is like still intent upon crushing Sarasdrath. They have to banish Tiamat the Dragon Queen, and they have to throw off the extraterrestrial threat of Dr. Bleakwood and the Somnium Tenebris that's coming for Praguespar. A few big fights are all that's left in the campaign. Seriously. So
I wish we could. I wish you guys could hear the conviction in Max's voice as he paved this road of blood and glory for his devastated Leonin player character.
that was badass.
He
That
was
a
going to
great-
use the rise of the Queen of Dragons to decimate and win the war.
Yeah.
This foolish king, this monarch, Prince Parlis, wrapped around his finger. Baragon's not going to stop at anything to win this war and mourn and grieve violently. It's hard to I've never had a game before where two player characters died at once and there was only one left, alone in a world that isn't his. It was bleak,
nuts.
man.
It was a moment for incredible role playing, and Max absolutely rose to it. I was so concerned about Baragon because in the last fight he was so single-minded. Attack this rock, fight her, to tear out her heart in front of her son. Right? He went so fierce and so dark, and I'm like, is he gonna bring this back? How is he gonna bring this back? He laid into it. He doubles it up. After his party dies and he watches them, he finds Parlis is resigned. He's ready to fall on his sword. He's ready to take this L in front of the whole world. And Max as Baragon does this Queen, like Macbeth, talk him into darkness thing where he returns. Oh, so empowering.
I'll never forget. Baragon starts monologuing. Parlis is just devastated. He's ready to tender his letters of resignation. And something changes in your eyes, Jordan. And you're like, as Parlis, you're like, no, you're right. And there's this horrible glint of the totalitarian monarch, this spark that Parlis had finally lost because he was beaten, his city taken, that Baragon was somehow able to return him. Oh my God.
Hey, if you think it's hard for Parlis to resist Baragon's hyping up, you should try and resist Max's. I mean, it comes from somewhere. It really
does.
is.
Yeah, I believe it.
It was amazing.
James was enthralled. Like he was
Jim
was like sitting there the last 2 hours, just like wrapped up in it. Oh my God.
Oh, so sweet.
So I wanted to tell the audience, when this session was over, Jordan was like, so did you guys guess the true names thing?
Yeah.
I alluded to it.
Yeah.
Did you guys guess the true names thing?
True names is your name in the whole world.
And Houston was like, you know what? I guessed that you were gonna wrap us, the three of us, Charlie, Houston, and Max, into it. Max was like, I had no idea. And I didn't have any idea either, but you took me for a fool, so I lied. I thought it would be a good bit, but everybody was super honest about it. So I just want to say on camera, on record, I had no idea, Jordan. The true names thing, you're so used to true names in the D&D lore being like some unpronounceable, like celestial word to control a like a demon or an angel.
Shout out to Ursula K. Le Guin for bringing those into the parlance.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it was tough. And maybe it's not obvious now, Jordan. Maybe it's going to be obvious later. You said that it had to be us three, Charlie, Max, and Houston. Was this why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why? So why are the party members the only ones that can unlock the dualities? Why doesn't Arkancelis do it? Because you guys are players. Because the duality is something from outside of Praguespar and something from inside.
Wow.
It's an item I created and something a different person created. I can't do it alone. Josh Jordan DM cannot use a duality weapon. No NPC ever could.
Dude, do you remember when I said we were talking about Korik And I said, Cork is yours and Cork is mine, but he'll never be ours again.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know what the fuck I was saying.
You were spot on. That's exactly.
I didn't even know what the fuck I was saying, and it here it is, man.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. You gotta. We were talking about this is gonna seem off topic, right? The Christmas was yesterday, and I was with my family. I was with my sister and her 2 kids. And we were talking about religion, and my sister was like, "Oh yeah, like we didn't really know. Yeah, I don't really have a sense for what I should get the girls involved with. Like I took them to one church, and they were like, "Oh, it smells weird." And I just think it's good to kind of be spiritual. And my family was going back and forth about like, "Oh, this might be a nice church that the girls might like," but I was like, "Listen, this is tough for kids to get because it's kind of a high concept thing, but eventually the world is so hard to everyone that eventually my nieces are going to realize that nothing means anything unless you decide it does." Right? At the end of the day, Jordan, it's not like we're not as often as I feel like we are prophets, like we're chosen by the gods. Like you and I, Jordan and Charlie, are here to turn happiness, turn the good into a lifetime of good. Right? To stretch it out, push the envelope.
How could it not?
It's not true, man. It's just that we get to decide what's special. And we've talked about this before, but it's so true now. It's just so true.
And you descend very quickly with that reasoning into like, what is the basis of all worthiness? Like, what is the basis of all value? You can say it's built off of nothing. There are a lot of geniuses who say it's built off of nothing. I mean, historically speaking. Shout out to some of those existential boys, right? Like Albert Camus and them. I just started playing Nier Automata, so that's fresh on the head. But
hell yeah.
But yeah, whatever your system is, I don't think it super matters, because how you act, how you interact with other people, the good you do, whether it's scoring high on this value system or this value system, I don't really mind, I've got Christian friends who are nice and genius, and I've got some who aren't, and your origin point only determines so much, I think. And your actions, your actual effects, the ripples you create, the vibrations you send throughout people and history. That's everything.
I'm not a pious man. I'll be the first to say that I'm not really there. I'm not really with it. I'm a fairly convicted atheist.
Yeah, this podcast is sponsored by Planned Parenthood, by the way. They're putting us on. They got me the it's good.
Yeah, we're pro baby killing here.
Get on it.
That's our platform.
Stick them.
But those little moments where I really thought that I lost Cal, the sadness I felt was special. Sadness is a very beautiful thing. Sometimes it's really ugly and I hate it. But sadness is like that when I was sure that I'd fucked it up with Cal. I tried to kill I myself tried to kill Cal. He took all his medication. He'd hurt too many people. Charlie, decided that Cal, it was his time to die.
And you decided to bring him back.
And then I decided to bring him back with a little bit of help and a little bit of conniving on Morvega's part.
There was.
But then when it was my choice again, when it was up to me, Charlie, and not me role-playing as Cal to decide, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't give him up. I like Cal too much. And so now he's back, and I hope, Jordan, that you don't hold anything back, that you make me, Charlie, feel the consequences.
You're asking for your fix. That's what's happening right now. You're like,
I'm asking for my fix.
He wanted to die. He was so sad.
I'm Salik, baby.
I'm like, this is great. Put him right back.
Give me my wummies, dude. Make him tragic. Give him a week. Give him a day. I don't care.
Oh Christ. The capacity for Greek tragedy in Pragasfar has never been higher.
It's never been higher.
It would be, now that there is the option that Baragon runs away and takes over massive swaths of land in some huge ploy and sends a bunch of people to wreckage and wins the campaign as the B-bag, I'm gonna let that be a real option, right? Like I wouldn't just reassemble the party and here have your role-playing moment. Like I'm gonna turn up the heat. If they want to bring him back, they're gonna bring him back.
Hey, the boys are back in town. Town being Trollwire, of course. I gotta ask, Jordan, how did you decide that Arkansas was gonna ask Cal first? Was that just a snap decision, or were you like, as Arkansas, he'd ask Cal first?
It was long anticipated. That was my big debate going into this, was like, I don't want to Deus Ex Machina them, but I want to give them a way. I don't want to make it feel like their characters died for nothing, right? Which it probably still wouldn't have been. I don't think I'd lose sleep if I didn't have Arkansas send you that message. But I want to clear my name. I want to be able to say, hey, fuckers, like, you could have lived. Just rat out your country. He went to Cal first because Cal was the negotiator, because Cal's the guy, because Cal's, I don't know, he didn't even ask Baragon. Baragon is so deathly, fiercely loyal. It would have been a waste of a spell slot. Baragon's not giving up a thing.
Yeah. We rubbed off on Baragon so much so that he's going to be grieving us violently through the next bit of the campaign. But also Baragon rubbed off on Cal. Once Cal was in there fighting Mad Ivan, fighting the Rock, as like you'll remember, as I was being whipped off the ship and killed by Mad Ivan, some of Cal's last words were, "In for a penny, in for a pound." You know, we were in it. And I have to admit, I felt really guilty after the session for not telling Arkansas, for maybe having been able to prevent all this. But you explained in your recap, Arkansas was trying to put us in a corner and make us feel desperate.
Mm-hmm. That's
Arkansas
true.
was pulling the strings. Make sure that the Foreboding International in particular feel like they don't have that many options.
It might have cost him the fight. Mad Ivan and Revelia spent their entire time in the combat just against you guys.
Arkansas is going to understand the depths of his. I think he's beginning to understand the depths of his mistake. But when he has to look Cal in the eyes again, that's going to be a moment that I'm not looking forward to for Arkansas because that's going to be tough. It's going to be one thing for Baragon to look Cal in the eyes again. It's another thing for Arkansas. So.
Hot guac. Let's not mention the fact that neither pennies nor pounds existed in Pragasfar. I'm gonna need to come up with what a penny and a pound are to reverse make sense of that idiom, but it's not gonna be currency. It's not gonna be currency.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, Jordan. Did you come up with any questions for me about Josadius?
You recapped the last of your combat with your Moonchild, but you didn't tell us what happened. How many sessions did you spend in this combat?
2. It was just 2. Yeah, I mean, remember that the rules that I came up with for the party fighting through an entire army were pretty dumb, and I regret them. So it was complicated. But just like before, it was they were pretty well outnumbered. They had a couple of Titans on their side.
Always helps.
Kind of fighting the tide. Hopefully just like bearing the brunt of these giant waves of forces that were threatening to trample all over the brains of bots. But it was Gleason, the 350-year-old dwarf, and Keith, the half-elf bard, riding a Pegasus against the warrior king, Kalash the Iron Fist. There was a point right there at the end where Kalesh was there. I had to make a choice. Where I was like, okay, if I made it so drawing his own blood by cutting his own skin and spilling his blood into the accumulation chamber or the camber, if I made that a free action, Niome would be back. I had to make a choice about action economy, which didn't feel great, that decided the entire fate of the third arc. So that's on me for not coming up with the details of the stuff, the big stuff that was going to matter.
For what it's worth,
Yeah,
I'd
it
call
was a
that
little
bonus
bit.
action.
The fight's going to be over next session. What?
I said, for what that's worth, I'd call that a bonus action myself.
Yeah, yeah, you could kind of really get in the middle there.
It depends how accurate you have to be with the splat. If you can kind
with
of
the splat, yeah, it would take some aiming, especially because, and I don't regret my choice, because Gleason had already destabilized the accumulation camber to the point that the stone, the fabric of this device that you have to stand on in order to use was disincorporating, and the pieces were breaking up. So there was the possibility that Kalesh took a step and just fell through the bottom. H rolled a deck save to see if he could make it there. No, Gleason meant for it to be tough because he doesn't know why or how yet, but he built all of that stuff for a reason. He made this God summoning, God reviving device for a reason. Mm-hmm. And whether it has to do with the bee bag or something else, that's what the party has yet to discover.
That's so sweet. I feel like a good lesson is from you, like hearing about these last two sessions specific, is how to run villains that don't just crush with power. You know, you so often see the trope of the villain is the more powerful than the good guys, so the good guys have to cut Footloose. They have to get a ragtag team of heroes. They gotta piece together scraps and be more clever and win that way. Kalesh wins with force when he can, but when he can't, he tries to convince people. He tries to trick people. He tries to coerce people. He makes this ethical dilemma on the spot because he thinks it's going to give this hero pause. It's sweet.
Kalesh, it was a very deadly enemy because he had the force of a military, which was like the tail side of the coin. The head side of the coin was his cunning and the fact that he got into bed with the goddess of secrets, the goddess of conniving, the one with the slow burn, the knife in the small of the back. I mean, he covered all of his bases, and he lost because the brains and the bots are smart. They marshaled their resources, and I guess they had a Pegasus. You know, that's no small thing. Flying horse, flying unicorn. If you've ever seen My Little Pony, it's a big deal. Okay, my bronies out there, shout out Greg. I guess he's an ex-brony.
They don't like being shouted out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We'll take that out in post.
They don't like being targeted. We've got 5.5 minutes left. I think that it would be fun, Jordan. We were talking about our solo sessions. Jojo was like, well, we're all gonna have to have some little solo action before we're able to get another session of practice far together. You said that Baragons would take 20 minutes, maybe Patches would take some time, but Cal is gonna take him a little while to find his way back.
We'll need to have a session of D&D.
A proper session.
Yeah, dude, it probably won't run 3.5 hours, but
shout out all the way back, and I love bringing this up, to when Jordan and I barely knew each other. Salik from Murrah ditched the party, and Jordan came over to my apartment in Corner House, and we just like hung out, just the two of us, for maybe the first time, and ran a solo. I mean, this is a Cal Vision Quest, you know?
It is.
This is the Vision Quest circle.
I 100% expected there to be like subtle allusions or symmetries to Salik's one shot at the end of Murat. The timing is almost the
Wow.
same, isn't it? I mean, a little less last second, but how could I not?
Chosen
How could I?
chosen by the gods, pitted against one of the other player characters, inevitably. Maybe
Mhm.
not. Maybe somebody doesn't tell him. Listen, one of you's got to die. One of you's got to die to get the wish to save the world. But I think Cal and Baragon. Once Baragon is back, and Max knows it, and Charlie knows it. You know,
It's a beautiful thing. Trellwire was made. Every region of Pragasfar was made with some vision in mind of mine, and Trellwire was made with the idea that sometimes fantasy is a place for relationships that can't exist in the real world. We can't have them in our reality, but they mean so much to us. The energy is so potent, we have to put them somewhere. We have to tell those stories. So there are ghosts, there are dead people, there are breakups, there are impossible relationships that are in our real world around us at all times in our heads, but in Trollwire are made material, are made manifest.
the
So
thing I can't get out of my head that I don't know how you're going to tie back in is Cal's father teacher dancing around in his house by himself with a broom.
delusional.
It's is that just the type of place? Is Trollwire just the type of place where people that like that tend to find themselves? You know, it's a what could have been place.
It's a what could have
Fantasy
been place.
fantasy in some of the saddest contexts.
That's the best description I've ever heard. It's a what could have been place.
It's tragic, man. The Greek tragedies. We're almost out. We got 2.5 minutes. I want to shout out
you first.
I want to shout out Jess and Nick.
He always asks.
Jess, you just got what?
Nothing. Continue.
Whatever, dog. Jess just sent me their last bit of info for their characters. We're about to get this real. We're about to get this sort of fringe D&D real life Ellison, New Mexico, Irid province.
I'm taking massive credit for influence on this one.
We're about to arrive January. I'm really excited. Also, we talked about getting James in on an episode of to guest in on an episode of Ironlight. We haven't yet, so we should.
That should have been this one, probably, but
dude, we've got time. He's got time.
He's starting his own podcast. We'll shout it out as soon as they name it something.
Exactly. Closing remarks. I think that in Josadius, the stories have been easy. Not easy for the characters, but easy for me and easy for the players. It's been classical D&D, wins and losses and blacks and whites, cunning and ruthlessness and flying horses and magical armor and armies of orcs. That's gonna fall away. It's all gonna get flushed down the toilet. And just like Pragasfar, the cracks are gonna start to form.
Yeah, that's the way through. Good enough. Closing remarks from me. I have little to add, I suppose. What the color palette of Pragasfar? I'm getting beige and light blue and a little red. There you go.
A lot of red.
A lot of red lately. No, it's always cool to see these things play out. They infiltrate every other aspect of life. They infect us with terrible purpose. And it's a good dance. I like doing it every time. That's us.
We're out.
So long.
Next time, baby.